Hi, this is Jonathan Stevens from EveryPoint. Today, I'm going to give you my first impressions of a new point cloud plugin called Stipple for Unity 3D. Stipple is a point cloud plugin from Lights and Shadows, and they give us a 30-day trial to see what we can do with it, give you some first impressions, and see how it works with EveryPoint data. Everything I show you today, you can do yourself. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial from Stipple, and you can download the dataset I use from Sketchfab. I'll have the link in the comments below where you can find that specific point cloud. The point cloud will be a scene in a forest with a house, and it's pretty neat. You can walk through it, you can see the trees, and I'm just gonna show you how it interacts in Unity 3D by downloading the plugin, showing you how you can install it, pull the data in yourself, and see different ways of visualizing the data. They also said I can do some post-process volumes on it, so I'm going to show you how that works. And we're just going to set up a really neat scene that we can use for later, for doing some sort of fly-through or a walkthrough in first person. So I'm going to jump on my desktop now, and we're going to explore this plugin together.
So I'm going to start by creating a new Unity project in the Unity Hub. So I'm going to click New here, and I'm going to call it Stipple House Test. And you have to pick 3D because currently they do not support the HDRP or the universal render pipeline, but that's okay. So we'll just pick 3D here and hit create, and it'll create a new Unity session for us here. Okay, so I have a new project here in Unity, and the first thing I need to do is install the Stipple plugin. That's fairly straightforward. You're gonna go to the package manager, and when you sign up for Stipple, they have a download folder you download. And so you're going to basically go and add a package from disk, and you're going to find that folder they sent you, open it up, pick the package.json, pretty standard here, and then it will add it to your project. And this takes a few minutes, so I'm going to just fast forward. So you can see the custom Stipple package right here. And they have links to documentation, change logs, things like that. So we can just close the package manager. And the first thing you'll want to do is actually go to the license manager. And they have instructions for you when you download this to go and put in a license key that they give you and hit update. You can go in here. I've already done it. You can also uninstall if you need to from that link. Also in the Stipple menu is you can import point clouds. They have some tools here to compare point clouds, align floor, center origin. And again, you got those links to the documentation, things like that. So we're just going to import the point cloud. You can, again, download this one. You'll find it in the description to this video. You can download the point cloud from Sketchfab. And a couple notes on that while I'm finding this is that when you download it, you'll download a PLY file. You'll need to transform that into one of their approved point cloud formats. In this case, I turned it into a LAS. You can make an E57. I believe there's a few different formats, and that can easily be done in CloudCompare. You can look that up on another video. So I'm going to click OK to import this. You don't have to actually move your file into the assets folder. You can just leave it where it normally is, and it will just reference it in. And this, again, will take a minute or two, so I'll just fast forward it. Okay, I got the point cloud in, and as I start to navigate around, you'll see this is actually a pretty large scene for a point cloud. It's actually 25 million points. If I go all around this house, you can see there's not much detail missed, and I have all these great trees. And one thing I want to show off here is how fast I'm navigating around this point cloud, and I can't even catch it dynamically rendering any of the points as if they're all in here. And that's really impressive for this many points in a game engine. I've tried other plugins, I've tried other tools, and usually there's some sort of loading lag. So that's fantastic. That's my first impression here is this is really fast, and that's really helpful when you're trying to navigate and you're trying to build some sort of experience. So now I'm going to actually show you the different ways we can visualize this point cloud. So if you just go in the sample scene or in the hierarchy and click on that point cloud in the inspector, you have a few different options. Of course, you can move this around. If your scene comes in a weird spot, they had the tools over here to align to floor and center your origin, things like that. But if it should come in where it's supposed to be. And then moving down to this appearance, you can change the way it appears. So it defaults to adaptive cone splat, which we'll explain in a minute. And I think that's actually the best visualization just out of the box. But if you want to change things around, you can look at point, and so now it's just going to show everything as a uniform point size. And so things are real close. You can almost see right through it, and further away, it might look a little bit denser because they're just close spaced and far away. Depending on what you're trying to do, you might actually want this mode. I do not. So I'm going to move to the next one. It's a splat. Most people are more attuned to this. This is just kind of like a flat disk. It's kind of like you'd see in Sketchfab or different software like that. And the nice thing about this is that everything looks almost a little bit more dense. But again, it's not changing the size of the splats as it gets closer or further from you. For that, we're going to want to change it to an adaptive splat. So now it's going to adapt the size of these based off your viewpoint. And so it's doing some dynamic rendering right there. And again, I have a hard time catching it. As you move in and out, you can see these trees here moving a little bit. That's it adapting, not it having a hard time loading. And it's really fast. Another cool thing you can do here actually is it's showing the raw RGB colors, but I can actually change it to a height gradient. And it's going to look really weird when you first do that. But if you just click the audio gradient size, it adjusts everything. For this scene, it doesn't really make sense, but kind of jump out here. You can see that the ground is red and the top ground of the trees is just blue and purple. Not all that helpful here. I'm putting 2D for you guys. We wouldn't really need this, but if you're showing off a quarry or something like that, that might be useful. Another thing you can do when you're in this mode is that you can turn on an iDome lighting, and that really is going to make it easier to see everything. So look how things kind of pop out once you've done that. And that's a cool effect. But again, for this scene, I don't feel we need it. But if you were trying to show off reliefs of a cut fill at a construction site, something like that, this is a great option. And you can change the iDome lighting settings. So right now it's just defaults to this nice thin black line around things. But if I made it at 3, things really start to pop out in contrast. So just showing that off. But I'm going to move it back to the raw colors. And again, I have the iDome lighting still on. It almost gives it like a cell shade look. But that's not what you're looking for what I'm trying to do today, just to show you off this how it works. So hit none, and we're back to default. One last mode you can do is actually adaptive cone splat. And you might not really see a difference when you click it. It changes the shape of these splats a little bit. I personally think this is the best look. You can actually change the splat size as well. They kind of get smaller, bigger and bigger. So if you need to do that, go for it. But everything in as you first pull it in tends to be just the best look you're going to get of everything coming straight in. And then they have this point cloud streamer script. What that does is it helps you handle how many points it's able to stream in simultaneously into your project. So right now it's at 25 million. That's how many points I have in here. But let's say my machine isn't quite fast enough for that. You can turn that down and you start to see that the scene does some funny things. So let's just make this a little bit right there. You'll start to see things not quite rendering unless it's in the middle of the viewpoints. So as I'm going around, you can see that happening in action. And then another thing we can do here is what is telling the engine to render points first. So the view camera is the scene, but if I make that this main camera, which is right here, the default camera we had in there, you can see the default camera is actually kind of looking at the top of this house. And so the points up here are actually rendering nice and sharp, but the points that it's not seeing behind the camera, they're not rendered. And that really helps your resources, especially if you were to add some more lighting or something in here. That's just a good way to handle the resources. Always just have rendering what's in the display. But as far as where we go, I'm going to keep the scene, put back to none, the scene as what's priority. And I'm going to make sure that everything is dynamically rendered all at once. So there we go. So everything looks really good. And again, I'm going to fly around this real fast. Nothing is lagging. I can't even really catch it doing any sort of rendering. Sorry if that's making it dizzy, but just showing this off. So that's pretty neat. So my initial impressions is this is a fast viewer for Unity. I have played with other plugins for Unity and plugins for Unreal Engine, and this is probably one of the fastest ones. And that's pretty neat to see. It's going to expand this window so you get a little bit better view. So now I'm going to play around with some post-processing volumes. That is something that they said we can do. And if I'm going to try to make a scene to have a specific look, I'm going to want to then add a post-processing volume. You might not need that for what you're doing, but let's explore those tools and see what happens. And again, when you do a post-processing volume, you're going to want to go and change some of your scene settings. If you've never used Unity much before, you're going to want to go to project settings, and then you're going to want to go to your player, and you want to change your color space to linear. This is some preference. Some people might want gamma, but I like linear here. And then also, if you go to graphics, to get all of those post-processing options, a lot of times you have to have deferred rendering. So if you just turn off these levels and change it to deferred, it will change how everything's being rendered in the graphics engine. So that's a small change. And now we want to add the post-processing stack. So again, you have to go to Package Manager if you don't have it in a project already. And you want to go to the Unity registry and just type in post, and you'll see post-processing. We're going to install that. This takes a minute or two to install, so I'm going to fast forward to when this is finished. Okay, I got the post-processing stack installed or added to this scene, and so now I'm just going to go to my main camera and reposition this a little bit. So if I just actually orient my scene how I want it, and if you hit Control-Shift-F, it'll actually change your camera. That's a little shortcut that you should learn if you're kind of new to this environment. And now you can see my main camera is actually looking at the house. Actually, I'm going to bring that just down a little bit, because when I'm looking at post-processing effects, it's best to look at it in the frame of your camera. So let's go down to what people actually might see a house from this angle here. Now I'll hit Control-Shift-F, and again, you'll see it reorient. And now we're going to start adding some of these effects. So with your camera chosen, you hit Add Component, and then down here, if you start typing in post, you'll see the post processing. I'm going to add a layer first, and in your post processing layer, I'm going to say I want everything affected. Normally you wouldn't do that, but just for the scene, we're going to do that. And you can change anti-aliasing. I'll just flip through them. Be honest, go to game here. I don't see a huge difference in it, but I'm yet to do any sort of motion. I know the temporal anti-aliasing is good for motion for some scenes. I'm just going to leave it off, but you can add anti-aliasing to this. So I'm just going to collapse this. I'm going to collapse the camera, in fact, so we can see more of what we're adding. And now I'm going to add a volume. And if you're unfamiliar with post-process volumes, you have to add a profile first. So we're just going to click New. You can actually name it. You can create a new one in your asset folders and then drag it in. But let's just hit New because I just want to be quick here. And so now we got this on. We can start adding effects to our scene by hitting the Add Effect button and then picking which effect. So the first thing I actually want to do, I'm going to play with the color grading. I think this scene looks good, but I kind of want it to pop because I'm going to play with this as if it's a scene for a video game or something like that. And so you're going to want to turn on all your boxes here just so you can start playing with things. And it's in for the tone mapping mode, it's none. If you turn it neutral, you'll notice everything kind of goes mute, almost as if you got you're working in a log LUT. If you want, this is a base. I think this is actually a good place to start, but I'm going to turn on aces. It makes it really cinematic. So Okay, anytime you turn on tone mapping to aces or one of this more cinematic looks, everything kind of gets dark. So we're going to want to adjust for that. The first thing I'm going to do is go to the post exposure or the EV, and I want to bump that up. And you don't need to make it a high value. I'm just going to make it 0.5. And already that lightens up the scene a little bit. I also want to add a little saturation. I think these bricks and things are a little just loss of color. And as I move that in, let's just go all the way up to 25. It's really making these trees look vibrant and green. So let me just kind of toggle that on and off, and you get an idea what's happening here. So now we got a little bit more shadows. This is a tree environment, so keep that in mind. So if I go back to the scene here, we got all these trees. So I wouldn't expect it to be super bright, but that's a nice starting point here. So if I go back to that camera here, we're looking at this. And then I'm also going to add just a little bit of contrast to this scene again, just to get a little bit more going on. So we'll just make it 12. That's pretty dramatic looking scene. I'm liking it. And then what else we want to change in here? So as I'm going through here, I might just want to up the temperature a little bit as well to make it a little warmer scene. It's a little cool. So you can go real cool, you can go real warm. You don't want to go very drastic. So let's just make this. Let's just type in right here 10. Oops, 10. Add a little bit of warmth to the scene. Get that brick red in there. That's looking pretty good. So I'm happy with that color grade. So again, let's turn this on and off. Go from mute to almost too saturated, but that's fine. I'm kind of looking for that specific look. Let's just fly around this a little bit. Looks really good. That brick's kind of brick red. Maybe a little oversaturated, but that's fine. And so now I'm going to add some bloom. I know this is an effect that's pretty polarizing. So if you use it sparingly, it can make things look really neat. If you go too far in, you're going to have a very cinematic looking look. So here's the bloom. Again, I'm going to turn it all on. I'm not going to play with all the settings, but if I make it, let's just say 20, you're going to have a lot of bloom, like a lot of misty background, and it's really taking all those highlights, and it's going to create this fuzzy look, and that's, to me, a little too much. A little too much. So for this scene, I'm just going to half that, 10. And yeah, it still looks good. Kind of almost adds a fog to the background. Those highlights gets a little bit of just a light bloom on it, and that's cool effects. If I go back to the game view here, that's looking really good. In fact, let's just take it down like that. Make that our new game view. Just get a reference. So that's looking really cool. You can see a little bit of the bloom effect, and almost the tree canopy up here is getting a little bit of sun shooting off that. So if I take this and collapse it, I can go walk through a few more effects. I'm yet to see anything happen with ambient occlusion, so I'm just going to skip that. I might be just setting it up wrong, but chromatic aberration, this is something that people also like for a specific look. I personally, for this, don't want it on, but just to show how it works, if you play with it, it kind of blurs the edges. If you're doing some sort of like dream state, something like that, that might look cool. But it's nice how it works really well on this. So I'm going to turn that one off. See what other effects we got here. You can add a vignette. Vignette can be kind of nice in this scene because this guy is a little bright. So turn this on, and I'm just going to up the intensity just a little bit like so. And you can see the sky just darkening and the ground around it darkening. If I go all the way, you can see, yeah, it works. And the secret to a vignette is you almost don't even want to know it's on. So I'm just going to make this real small like that. That's looking good. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to turn that up and see what else we got here. Let's go to the last thing I'll play with. Let's go with the grain. Again, this is not an effect I think I'll keep on, but just to show you how it works. So if you've got grain, turn this on. And this just adds a little grain, like almost like you have a old camera that's picking up some grain. This again is a stylistic effect that you should kind of use sparingly and know what you're doing. You can turn that grain up, can change the size of the grain to make it nice and big. I mean, if you want that distorted TV look, go for it. Not really what I want here, but just showing you how it affects the scene. So I'm going to go ahead and turn grain off, leave the vignette on, and I feel like that's pretty good. The scene's looking really good. Let's go to our virtual camera here, our camera, and it's looking really good. The last thing I'm going to do here, though, that I will change is the skybox. This skybox looks... it's just not my favorite. It's got this gray background that you can kind of pick out, and it's just, everyone's seen the skybox. So let's go ahead and change that. Let's pick one from the scene store. So to change your skybox, you're gonna have to bring up your lighting. So all you do is go to Windows, Rendering, Lighting, and I'm gonna dock this here. And if you go to your environment, you'll see there's a skybox, and it's default, and I just don't want that one. So I'm going to pick a different one, and that's pretty easy. So if you just go to the asset store, again, or not asset store, if you go to the package manager, and you can go to my assets, and you can add assets. I have this one here, all sky free 10. That works good for me. So I'm just going to import that one and hit all and import all these and see what we can do with it. You can go find this one for free as well. And it takes a minute to add this. So I'm going to fast forward. All right, I got some skyboxes loaded in here. You can see in your assets tree here. I have different folders. I think there's 10 different skyboxes I have. And so I can just go up here. It's this skybox material. Click this little circle here and see what's in here for skyboxes. I'm going to try, let's just go crazy. Let's try a nighttime one first. And see how that looks. So this all skies nighttime. I'm going to turn off this grid too. Turn it all the way down. So that's kind of this like nighttime. I think it looks cool, but it doesn't quite make sense. Like this, you'd see all this lighting up here. It's too bright. That'd be like a moonlight canopy. And I just don't think it works. You can always change that skybox, how it's rotation, things like that. But so I don't think this is quite the skybox we want. It looks cool. It's kind of a night scene. I do have a dark building, but let's try something more daytime. If I go here, I actually kind of pre-picked that one. I thought looked decent. This epic blue sunset right here. I like this. I'm from Oregon, so this kind of reminds me of home, with these nice blue and the sky with gray clouds. And it's kind of sunsetty, so the background's kind of blue. And so that looks really good. If I go to my scene camera here, my main camera, let's go to the game. I think then that's looking really, really nice. Go back to the scene. You could even grab a cool screen render just like this, kind of between the trees, add some foresty context. Let's go like that. Control Shift F, your game scene, and look, there you go. You got this beautiful composition here of this house, this nice blue sky. I think the lighting makes more sense. It's almost like a starting to sunset here. This looks pretty good, and so you could always just take a snapshot of that or whatever you want. But I'm just showing you off how the different tools work. Again, this whole scene renders so fast. I'm going to go to the back side. You can see what it looks like from different views. You could even kind of go this top 3/4 way down and get a render like this. It looks really neat. I'm really liking this point cloud tool. And I think the next step here is I'm going to turn this into a little game level where I can walk around in first person. So I'm going to have a follow-up video. We can walk through that. But in this one, again, we brought it in. We showed you how to install Stipple, how to bring a point cloud in, how to change how it looks like for points, cones, splats, things like that, and then how different kind of color variations we can add to it, which is quite powerful for visualization. But let's turn this into a game level in a second video. So look out for that one. I'm going to make that one here shortly. And in the comments below, let me know what do you think about this, if you're able to do it yourself. If you have questions about how we did any of this, I'd be happy to respond. And look out for number 2, where we're going to turn this into a basically a collidable mesh where we can walk around it, and we can jump around the house, and we could fly around it however you want, and take it from there. I think in video we do a third video as well, where I'd actually like to try this out in VR, because I know that's something that's possible. So thanks for watching this, and keep your eye out for the next video.